going on, everyone? What's happening? So right now we're just driving through kind of the countryside of Madera, California. I'm heading home. So out the window to my left, you see a little bit of the kind of the rolling hills on the way to Yosemite National Park. Behind me is I'm heading southbound right now on the Freeway 41. This freeway takes you to Yosemite National Park if you're heading northbound. So if you're going the opposite direction, you end up going towards Yosemite, which I think I need to go to soon. Probably make a trip out of it sometime this winter or something. I haven't been into it in years. I did last time I was there, I did a hiking trip up the kind of the switchback trail that goes up to Yosemite Falls, and it's a tough little initial climb, but you get a couple 100 feet out of that climb and get to the top of this nice little picturesque little spot of the Yosemite Falls and the kind of valley below, but it doesn't kind of clear all the way to the top of the valley until you get further up the trail. I think like the first mile is just grueling little switchbacks back and forth. So I did that trail, God knows when. I was in my, I don't remember if I was in my combat boots or anything. So I feel like I did a trip before I went to Bahrain or something like that. So it must have been 2012. So it's been upwards to a decade, 13 years or so. So I'm about due to go there soon. But this countryside is a little bit of a taste of where I grew up. I'm coming from my brother's house, Madera County. Can't really see much out there with that glare. I hope y'all are having a good day. Right now I see 0 people, but if you're watching this later, after it goes posted, I hope you're having a wonderful day. So yeah. I wish I could listen to some kind of music right now, so you guys have a little bit of hangout music, but right now, I got hit with a kind of a copyright thing on one of my videos or live streams that I did a couple weeks ago. I looked at the details. It's not like the video got pulled or anything, but I didn't realize when I was streaming, I was doing, I guess, a study session with ChatGPT, and when I'm studying, I typically have YouTube music, like study music going on in the background, and I think YouTube like recognized it, so as like it's published content from its channels. I don't know how it does this, but it noticed that, hey, that music matches content on our site, so it hit me with like a copyright warning on it. Not just like anything bad, it's just like, if you do this, I can't remember the nature of it, it just hit copyright. So due to the nature of like me not giving commentary, now I've just been just straight, pretty much quiet background, so not even music playing in the background, because I didn't want the microphones to pick it up. So I didn't know that was like a standard practice or anything. So you're just here with me, enjoying the background scenery. What to talk about? So, a couple of the things that I kind of been talking about in my videos is strategy and tactics. I know I put out a tactics and strategy and tactics video. I talked about OODA loop yesterday. Talked about podcasts. I'm trying to think through like my core pillars of what I'm trying to kind of dissect and build the brand off of. I'm kind of lost in thought just because I'm focused on driving, but I think transition over microphones. I need to mount this. I have a handheld Spider mic right now, or Spider's tripod stand. All right, so I know what I can talk about for a little bit. So the core strategy I'm trying to employ right now, why, if you are a viewer of this video or you're following my channel, is I'm trying to get in the practice of just developing content and really focusing on idea generation and just coming up with things to say. So the idea behind it is just to create the habit, develop the skill of passing on and verbalizing or scripting, or just in the raw form that this is, just figuring out my experience and the value I have as a skilled person in the marketplace. Not just for like what it is that I do as a job, but like essentially this idea came from a YouTube video creator. He specialized in giving like financial analysis on the real estate market. So he's a guy that's just been in the real estate game, in the financial analysis game for a very long time, and he just at a certain point just started a YouTube video and just started going live or started posting a video, and it was just very short and sweet to the point, and he did that every day, and it was just raw and unedited. He'd read the paper like he'd always done, take some notes, and give his thoughts out to the world. And it turned out for him that was highly valuable in the market. So I'm essentially testing out his theory and thinking. His thinking is like, hey, if you're 40, between the ages of 40 and 50, you have value. You have life experience, market experience, working experience that can be transmuted and given to the market as YouTube content. Don't get lost in all this TikTokification of figuring out shorts. His theory was like, figure out the thing you're obsessed with and that you just do on the daily basis and publish the content. And the guy he was talking to, he's like, don't edit it. He's like, don't edit. He's like, go live. Don't even think about it. Just go live. And he's like, well, what about holidays? He's like, screw holidays. Just go live 5 minutes. Give your thoughts. And I was like, all right. And so it kind of caught my attention. So that's what I've been testing, is literally just grabbing my phone, going on my computer, hitting record, going live, and don't even edit it. Just download, publish, right? And then I use ChatGPT to figure out a title and a description, right? Doesn't take much time. And so that's been the idea behind it that I'm testing. So I have no idea what number video or what live number this is, but the idea has been just first build the skill set. And so that was one thing, key hindsight. He's like, you have something to say. You just got to first get used to saying it and putting it out there. Then you can, once it's a skill that you have developed, you can extract it out. Then you can kind of refine it. Then you can start editing here and there. But first, just go live for 50 days. So that's the goal of what this is. I haven't been going live, but I've been making sure I've recorded something on the daily. So far, I've only missed one publish. I had to re-record it. I had I'm going to use an excuse. I blame myself, right? I had an issue with audio. So I never published that recording. I was like recording, I got 3 minutes in, I hit a button on my phone, and it completely jacked the recording. So after I re-recorded it, I was trying to edit it the other day, pull them together, and I was like, why is this not working? Where's my transcript? And then I clicked the video. I was like, there's no record anything of me speaking, so I have nothing to record to or transcribe on Descript. So it's like, fuck. All right, I got a 3-minute clip. Like, do I publish it? Do I re-record it? It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was like, let's go to bed. This video's a bust. All right, so technical errors, got it. Check for technical errors. So hopefully, as I'm going live, you guys can hear me. So yeah, we're gonna use this one. I may clip it later, but today we're testing and just going live. Typically, the idea with it is why I set it up on my phone for this nature was I wanted to get in the habit, because of just going live, of utilizing my drive times and time driving to utilize that time for video creation and stuff like that. I spend a lot of time commuting for work and various things, and to make it more productive for me, I'm testing various setups of how to essentially still work on various things in media or different tool sets to make it productive for me, so I could still get some work done. And so that's what you guys are seeing here. It's like I got an hour drive, so I was like, might as well just go live. Who cares? It's not like, who's gonna watch? If you're watching, I guess thanks for watching. But I was like, who's gonna make fun of me for this horrible setup and this horrible kind of idea of going live? So far, it's like after I've gone live, 2 people have watched my videos, so it's kind of making a slight bit of joke out of it. But no, I'm very much appreciative of the people that have found some of my videos. Some things that actually pop out to people that they find interesting is, so far, like anytime I talk about Bitcoin or do something with Bitcoin, it kind of gets them a little bit of views. My first couple streams with Bitcoin, I don't know if caught people's attention. I had a video that people watched for like 9 minutes of that stream. I was just talking about the halving cycle. So apparently, the 3 views it got, people wanted to listen to, which is interesting. I didn't think there was a interest in Bitcoin. Another live stream I did was I was using Replit to build a Bitcoin-related pay software. And I'm still working on that piece of software, which the software idea that I had was in the stream, I think I was I'm trying to do 2 pieces for Bitcoin software. The first one was trying to build out essentially a chart that essentially is a graphing of like the M2 money supply and Bitcoin price chart, and then having the price have a lagging indicator, and then I had to figure out the scaling, the chart scaling. So I think it was the chart's goal was to look at the M2 money supply and the Bitcoin price for the year, have a 12-week lag applied to the plotting, and then overlay the M2 money supply and Bitcoin price. Now, Bitcoin price for this needed to be in log scale, so it's more fine-tuned and less erratic. And then I'm not quite sure how M2 needed to be plotted. The reason I wanted to have this specific chart with this specific style was because I wanted to essentially not have to resort to listening to Raoul Pal or his business entity or his business partners publish the content. They published good, valuable content. This is the chart. The chart I was trying to reference was his construction, and I was like, that's valuable because you can see the M2 supply indicators and would help for tracking the price movement. So I'm a Bitcoin enthusiast, so this chart seemed pretty valuable for me as an investor to. I don't necessarily need tactically to understand when to invest in. I use price average, so I invest into it almost daily, buying Bitcoin and then moving it over to my personal wallets. So I follow it through. I'm not a person that waits for it to go on sale, but I do heavily invest more into it when it does go on sale. So I wanted to be able to understand when it was going to surge or dip in price necessarily, so I can get a little bit of a head start lead in on it. Because one, when it comes to tax planning purposes, it's helpful to know when the price movement is going to be. If it's going to surge or rip, you're going to take a heavy tax burden on it. So I was trying to figure out, okay, well, if you can get a lead on when it dips, you can anticipate when you want to buy. Or if there's any indicators when it might peak, I can utilize some of the assets to make business purchases and stuff like that, strategic business purposes, and so when to move some money around. So I wanted to know the ebbs and flows really, and that's why I wanted my own chart, so I can just open up my own internal spreadsheets and I would have the live updated chart and not have to rely and track down older charts that are months old. So that's why I was trying to work this program. And I was trying to use the charts development, try to pull sources, trying to pull free APIs, get a code set generated, and get this chart created and rendered on my own personal tools. So I can have something I can go to on my own when I want. So that was the goal of it, just to have it as a tool of when to, because it's nice to have this thing, if you know it closely resembles, okay, if you know Bitcoin is following the money supply fluctuations, wouldn't you want to know the ebbs and flows of the money supply patterns on the daily to know tactically when are good points to sell or buy or pivot or move money around? So that's what the goal of that chart in that stream was, to do that programming. I got pretty close. got like a graph plotted and all the different plot points. I was struggling with the database and the API calls for it. Let me transition over. I want another drink of my Red Bull. What was the other program, the other Bitcoin program I was trying to build? Oh, I remember now. So I had this idea that I wanted to test. So what I did was I developed this speculative Lightning Network channel, and what I was doing was essentially developing a system and an interface so essentially employees, instead of clocking in at work, let's say, like there's various clock-in systems, right? There's like web-based clock-in systems, there's like terminal-based clock-in systems. My idea was getting away from those old clocks, like an industrial factory, and then having it go to the computer, logging your time, and then having a payroll person handle paying you in 2 weeks, like the older system. Now that Lightning Network transactions are growing in the software capabilities and the wallets, and they're building out the technology a little bit better, I wanted to leverage that technology of utilizing a transaction and see if you can set up a system. It was a mock system. It wasn't actually connected to the channels, but I wanted to have like the foundation set. So essentially, if you're on good terms with your employer, instead of paying you on the week, you could get paid live. Essentially, you're at work, you're getting streamed. So by the minute, getting paid. So the idea was to stream payments to your wallet. So I had to break down various functions of how the system worked. You needed for a system like this to work, you need essentially a buyer and seller or a sender and receiver of the Bitcoin or the sats for the Bitcoiners out there, and for the sats transfer. You needed to have a transaction channel between a sender and receiver. The person clocking in would be the receiver, and the employer would be the sender. The employer needed a wallet to pay the person, and the sender needed a wallet. So you needed two wallets, a channel to transact, and then you needed a clock system. So, and then you needed a system of essentially conducting transactions at a periodic cycle. So you needed to initiate transactions on the Lightning Network autonomously. So various details of the system. And then obviously the front interfacing systems, the buttons, the kind of the multi-faces, the back end. So you needed a database of like, okay, what's the sats count within the employer wallet? How do we transfer it over? How are the channels interconnected and commingled? How are we handling the transaction? How are we handling the clocking and the logging of transactions and stuff like that? So there's a lot of logging between all these systems. And so that was the kind of the idea behind that, is parsing out the processes. So my idea was, okay, I'm going to work. Let's say I have an office job, so I can digitally log in. I open up the app. I say log in, give my credentials, and I hit time. And then on my side, it says you are essentially vouchered for this duration of time. So you have 8 hours that you can collect on. Anything out of that, you would have to go to an approval process so you're not running the clock continuously. So good standing employees can say, hey, you're on good standing, so this person's allowed to stream payments. So when they clock in, and every minute they'll get a sats. So essentially we're taking their hourly rate, and in this hypothetical situation, I was like, all right, well, this person gets $25 an hour. There's 60 minutes in an hour, so let's break this down sequentially. They need how many dollars per minute? And then we need to do a cost breakdown, so we need to be able to track what the minute-to-minute price evaluation of Bitcoin is at each minute. So at each transaction, the person is owed, let's say, $2.50. They need to receive $2.50 for each minute they work. And the system needs to figure out how much sats to transfer over to equate to $1 or $2.50. So it needs to run the calculation of what is the spot price of Bitcoin versus dollars. Run that calculation down to the sats, and then apply the sats, and then do a transaction. So do a Lightning transaction. So it's quick and instantaneous. Boom. Here's your sats. Now in your wallet. Now the sats may change in evaluation from minute to minute, but at the time it was transacted, you were given $2.50 of value. Whether that change fluctuated throughout the day, that's on you. And I needed the system to also give the user the optionality of switching between fiat or Bitcoin if they so choose to. So there's a lot of different complicated systems, but that was the idea of just developing a payroll system on the Lightning Network. I don't know if it's a valuable thing. I think it's got value. I think in the age of the digital age that is continuing to grow out, I think having systems and processes that are more instantaneous on how we pay people, making payments more frequent and more regular is going to be a thing. So I was like looking at like my eBay and how my eBay processes transactions, and it takes a while. But like when you're a first time seller, they put you at a level of where, okay, we don't know you yet, you just started, so essentially we're going to pay you once your item delivers. So they have different tiers of their sellers, of how they grade people. And once you're at a high enough, once you've made enough transactions to say, hey, everything I've sold, I've shipped out to the seller. So because eBay doesn't do things face-to-face with you, when you come in, they're like, hey, if you sell something, it has to, before we give you any money for the sale, we want to make sure it gets to the buyer, right? We'll broker it, but we're not going to give you money while you're first starting off. So you have to earn trust with them. So similar kind of process. Now as an eBay seller, I've done over 100 transactions. Now I'm at a tier where, okay, we trust this guy, we'll continue to monitor him. But if a seller buys stuff, we'll move over money to his account, and then the next day we'll move his funds over. So they have their protocol. So it takes about 2 to 3 days now, versus what it was literally like, get the transaction, I had to mail it, give it to the U.S. Postal Service. The U.S. Postal Service had to go through its system. So a package going from California, where I'm at, to Florida, or let's say New York, could take anywhere from 7 to 9 days going through the Postal Service. So that's the lag that I was at for receiving my money for the purchase, was like the U.S. Postal Service had to mark it as delivered, and then eBay had to confirm it. And so once they confirmed it as delivered in their system, which is pretty instantaneous for them. But then it would take a day or two to get wired over to my bank. So I was looking at getting transactions from like the day it was sold to 10 to 12 days, which was kind of annoying, right? That's almost half a month. I got to double check and verify those time frames, but that's like how it was when you first started off. You'd make a sale and you weren't getting paid for like another week and a half. But now I'm at a status where it's like it's almost instantaneous. And now if I made multiple sales within a week, you're getting little micro payments given to you here and there in your bank account of choice. But fiat rails and the debit and standard fiat rails are very, very slow. The cryptocurrency world is speeding up liquidity. Nowadays, you can transfer Bitcoin, and depending on the fee that the gas fee that you apply to that service, your gas fee is essentially incentive money to give to the system to confirm your transaction. So once you've said, okay, here's a wallet I want to send money to, your transaction goes to the meme pool. And that meme pool is a collection of transactions that need to get sent and essentially registered into the blockchain and then confirmed in the record. Okay, so you go wait in line. Okay, here's a transaction list, protocol, confirm it. So it can take the standard kind of block that gets written for a batch of transactions is every 10 minutes. But when you're in the meme pool, you can sit there for a minute or two, depending on how much you entice the miners. They're not, it's not a first come, first serve kind of system. It's kind of like a fee hierarchy. So you can prioritize your transaction fee at whatever standard. So most wallets watch what the average fee rate is, and if you want to change your premium, you can hop in front of the line if you want to adjust your gas fee. I typically pay the average. I've had a transaction sit like for a day before it got moved over in my Bitcoin wallet. I was like, ooh, this is a good thing I didn't need that money urgently. I should have moved that over Lightning Network node had I known it was going to sit for a day. But it happens. And now I'm talking about like moving the money, waiting for a block, it getting registered in a block, and then the confirmations of it getting locked into a wallet took about a day. So a tip for that is like kind of regularly watch the transaction volume. If you track the Bitcoin transaction volatility on the regular, you might have an idea of what gas prices may be surging on their ebb and flow. So if they're surging, there might be a backlog of how many transactions are moving. So there might be a delay. So you may, if you want to get your transaction locked in, for those Bitcoiners out there or learning about it, you may want to raise your gas fees for those testing that out. But now with this new Lightning layer built out, paying someone money is pretty quick and efficient now. I think about a year and a half ago, maybe two, right when Midjourney model version 3 was out, I think. I had this guy in Ukraine that I was talking to on X, and he was like playing around and rendering on Midjourney as well, and we're both like publishing these little play renderings on our platform. And I was talking to him, and I was like, hey dude, where do you live? You're pretty good. Can you help me with this rendering? And so I sent him my idea, And he got back to me in a day, and he gave me his prompt. This is when you had to like really specify like what it is you wanted. And so he seemed to be better at it. And I gave him some money. He didn't work at it very hard, and he was in Ukraine, and I'm here in the States. And so essentially we coordinated on X. I asked him, hey man, the easiest way for me to send you money for the work you did, I want to pay you a little bit. I feel obliged to. He did work for me for this service. Can I give you $5? He's like, yeah man, send me $5. I was like, $5 US. I can't wire him that in my bank account. He's in Ukraine. At the time, it was still a battle zone. This is right when Russia was invading at the time. I'm not sure where this guy lived at, but it was right during that time. So I was like, I do know a way. I don't know how technology, like if you're familiar with this technology. So I pitched to him, me paying him via Lightning. And he's like, I have heard about that. How's it done? I gave him a little bit of lowdown. He's like, here's an app. Send it. I gave him an app or a wallet app suggestion. I think it was either Moon or Blue at the time. That's the two kind of free open source that I knew at the time and was using. And he's like, all I need from you is once you set up your wallet, it's free. You don't even need a bank account or an ID for this. Like Bitcoin's privacy, privacy conscious kind of ecosystem. So he sent me, he's like, once you set up with the wallet on whatever device you choose to, send me the QR code with the Lightning node address, and I'll wire you some sats. And he did, and I sent him it, and the transaction went through like that. So I was able to coordinate to a guy in a war-torn country and send him $5. I thought that was pretty cool. That was, for me, I was like, good job, Bitcoiner Derek. I had been like learning about the technology and utilizing it for my own personal savings and investments and wealth generation for a while now, but I've been quietly going about it. I don't go boasting about it to friends and family because it's really complicated for people to understand, and if they don't want to, if they don't care, if it's not interesting to them, I'm not gonna just go about it. I think it's really interesting and cool technology and a cool asset to get into, but I'm not gonna promote it and market it if people are interested in it. But this for me was, I thought, a really cool use case that I wanted to talk about to people. I was like, hey, there's this thing called Lightning. It's open source, and I can wire you money. Now, how he utilized that on his end, I have no idea. That's up to him. He's hit however he wants to do it. But I thought it was really cool. I was able to wire him $5 in sats or satoshis overseas to essentially a war zone country that had government sanctions all going on. So yeah. So going back to the story, so that's where I really started seeing the value in it. It's like, oh cool, I was able to do that. So how eventually I speculated that more people would be on board with this in like 5 to 10 years. So I was like, I bet there might be a way of redoing clock-in systems, like same as eBay. You kind of, if you build a good trust, if you had a trust protocol system, maybe you could set up a system where essentially if you're at high value trust, when you clock in, instead of everyone else waiting 2 weeks to get paid, you can have a payroll system that pays you by the minute, and your money goes to you directly. Boom, here you go, right into your wallet every second. Boom, 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 payment, and then clock out. So yeah, that was the idea behind it. I was like, maybe this might be valuable, maybe it's not. It might. I mean, if it's early, you're like, what's wrong with the systems at play now? Like, nothing. people have to change. People have to be wanting their money more instantaneous for this system to have real market value. So I figured like maybe eventually this might be the standard demand of like wanting to use this protocol. I hope y'all are enjoying this driving session. I hope the audio is still working out for you. Not much going on out there anymore. There hasn't been. There's just ag. We're getting close to my hometown. And I probably got another 10 more minutes left before I'm going to cut out this stream, finish it off for the drive. Since I got a couple more minutes, I guess I can talked about lightning, coding. I may do another live with me stream in a little bit. I might just cut this one out and then reset up at my computer once I'm ready to start streaming on the computer. Right now, this is like a major test for testing out the phone, see what needs to happen. Ugh, fuck. Ugh. So my core pillars of experience that I've been so far talking about in my videos have been podcasts, because I've been like a podcast fan since the 2000s, early 2000s era, right when iPhones really kind of hit mass market and the cell phone technology allowed you to kind of like stream things off the internet. So that's when I got jumped on board. So I've been doing that since for coming up on almost 20 years. I've been an avid podcast listener and a person that enjoys the media platform. And I think I've talked about it in another stream, is why I like podcasting is for me it's the most educational piece of media. Better than any documentary, better than any YouTube video. I love long form conversation with something. And so just those 2 hour, 3 hour, 5 hour talks, doesn't matter if it's like a series or anything. I just love the long form nature of going into things, and just really, for me, it really humanizes like hearing someone's thoughts, really, really long form dissecting it. Like a podcast I was listening while I was rocking my daughter to sleep yesterday was on these Egyptian vases. These two, like a mathematician guy and a electrical engineer, were scanning these pre-dynastic vases, and he was just giving out his findings on the science and engineering of these vases. I think I'm like an hour and 15 minutes into their talk, and I know it's got like a 3 hour chat into the science on those things. And I was like, damn, it's a lot of vase talk. On my way into hanging out with my brother, I was listening to Peter Diamandis and his guests talking about AI and AI news, and like kind of the AI race of the major entities, and like where they stand amongst the competition amongst each other. I tend to listen to those talks from those guys every once in a while, just to kind of get the bleeding edge of where the technology's going, so I can kind of gravitate onto it. I don't really care much about like the company's technological development stages. I look at it more as like an end user. So I follow the trends to see, okay, well, they're trying to get these tools to compete at this level, so why do I care about its computational skill sets? Well, it lets me know its capacity. If I know Grok can pass these certain tests, I may utilize it for more scientific paper conversations because I know it's in-depth resources for understanding, or if I know its skill sets in another field, I may use it for more problem-solving resources or conversations and chats. So stuff like that. But they let me know when like stuff's on the bleeding edge for various trends. They talk about robotics and robotics trends, but they'll talk about big contenders in like big global markets, in like the big macro changes of economies, and it's helpful. But I'm like, I tend to not listen to that kind of stuff because some of it can be publishing hype and trying to market off hype and attention. So it's like, I'm not a big fan of utilizing the attention economy, but even though I'm putting out a live stream. So podcasts, AI, business. You probably I haven't talked about small business yet in any of my videos, so I may do it. Ooh, ramp's closed. Gotta go around. So I may talk about small business and eBay, running an eBay store. What's another one? I've been talking about strategy and tactics, where I started learning about it. I thought I started getting into strategy and tactics big time in my military days, but I've forgotten once I kind of got back into gaming and video games that it really started in my RPG role-playing game era of where I was learning kind of the basics, and even sports, like understanding the nuance of tactical and strategic thinking and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I had gotten a taste of it even as a kid. And so, reconnect. Oh no! Oh no! Reconnected. Oh, we're back. Sorry. I think I lost something happened to the stream for a second there. So yeah,